Hey guys, it's Goose here. I'm back up at my cottage, the cabin, one of my favorite places in the entire world to be. It's a nice, crisp September night, the perfect temperature to be sitting here at the fireside. And the last time I made a video like this, hanging out by the fireside, I talked about the legend of a very well known or sort of a notorious speedrun figure named Cowan Hames. And a lot of people really seem to enjoy that story. They seem to enjoy, talking and hanging out by the fire. So I figured, what a better way to keep making some more similar videos that people might want to see. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's the perfect thing to fall asleep to. It's so cozy. And so I figured, I have some time up here alone again. And let's tell another story by the fire. And this one's going to be kind of an interesting story. I want to talk about faked and cheated speedruns over history, especially as it pertains to the elite community, because that's where kind of I know a lot of history and I know a lot of the stories in particular. I know today there's a lot of discussion over, for example, this Todd Rogers Dragster 5.51 run that as evidence mounts, it might seem like it wasn't a legitimate run. And I do want to talk about that maybe in a later video, but I think it's important to talk about specifically with the elite.net and how faking claims and faking proof and cheating over time has evolved to the point it is now, and to the point it's been an extremely clean community for the past half a decade or so, once we've started to implement some really harsh rules and regulations surrounding it. So let's go back to the very beginning, as far as I know. And the first person who is alleged to have faked proof for a speedrun at the elite.net was a gentleman by the name of Octowinky. And Octo, what he did was he was playing Perfect Dark, and in order to prove that he got a certain time, he simply would Photoshop the end screen to a different time. Obviously, it's extremely easy to do in this day and age. Might have been a little bit harder back in like the year 2000, 2001, back when he was doing it, but certainly not an immense challenge for sure. So he's sort of known or credited to be the first guy to have faked evidence of a record time at the elite. And the interesting thing with that is that at that time, you didn't actually have to have videos as proof. You sort of just had to be trusted, whatever that entailed. And so the more you kind of hung out with the community, the more you talked about the games, the more you shared your knowledge, the more trusted you were. Like, for example, if you take a level in Perfect Dark, say a deep sea agent, for example, and you're talking about how many seconds you have to wait for Elvis to complete that objective and come into the room with you there, that's obviously something that a person who played the level a lot would know. And if you didn't play level a lot, you would have kind of no idea how often or uncommon that would take place. So it was very obvious if someone had no idea what they were talking about and claiming all sorts of great times. And it was kind of obvious when someone knew exactly what they were talking about and claimed good times, right? And of course, this was almost 20 years ago. It was in the infancy of not just Goldeneye and Perfect Dark, but also kind of speedrunning as a whole. And so there were really no rules, guidelines, boundaries, and whatnot. Now, this was certainly before I was involved in the community, and Octo would go on to be a very well-liked and well-respected member of the website. He actually went on to be one of the proof moderators of Goldeneye and Perfect Dark for at least some period of time, I want to say around 05, 06, 07, somewhere in there. So, funnily enough, despite him having, made some Photoshops of end screens, he was a well-respected guy and kind of atoned for his sins and went on to be a very important member of the community. And so he's kind of not around so much anymore. He might drop by every now and then. He's now married with children, as happens to a lot of these really old speedrunners. But that's sort of the first instance of cheating or faking proof in the elite. And now the second situation I want to talk about, and I think there's about 5 or 6 total kind of stories that kind of paint the picture of this whole, faked times and faked records. The second one I want to talk about is a gentleman by the name of Commissar. He took his name from a Nirvana song, or a lyric, Come As You Are. So I guess he wanted to be called Come As You Are was his username, but I always called him Com because it just sounded too lewd to call him Come. So Com joined the community probably around 2002, and right when he joined, he claimed he had achieved Streets Agent 113, and he didn't, obviously. Streets Agent 114 was the record at the time, and 113 wouldn't actually happen until 2005 when Wouter Jansen would get it. But the record was 114. It was a pretty fresh record because Look Down had just been invented at that time. And he came in and claimed he got 113. And it was ranked briefly on the rankings. You would see, his initials SB by Streets Agent 113, Untied. And he never had any video evidence. He never even had photo evidence. And it became apparent, obviously, very quickly that he didn't have the knowledge that he had got at the time. He was clueless about Goldeneye. I think if we take a look at his times page, his best time, after his whole career was said and done, was like a Facility Agent 58. And I think you could probably train a dog, maybe with some deficiencies even, to get a time like that. So certainly not anything skill-oriented at all. Clearly not capable of Streets 113. But he claimed it. It was obviously outed that he did not get Streets 113. And so it was removed from the rankings. And Com eventually went on to be an administrator of the Elite.net. And, he was more of a questionable one. I could go on probably for, 6 or 8 hours about all the stories about him, specifically when it comes to administrating and moderating the Elite.net and the Elite forums over history. He'd do some strange things like deleting interesting threads between skilled Goldeneye players about strategy discussion, meanwhile leaving like flame threads and all sorts of crazy nonsense open. Certainly an interesting character. Leave that story for another time. But the fact of the matter is he came to the community, lied about a time, never got it, and kind of went on to establish himself as an influential guy in the community. It wasn't until 2015, 2016 when he finally stepped down. It took many years of us trying to force him out to leave his position as an administrator, certainly on the forum and the rankings. He had the power, I guess, to remove times or remove players entirely from the rankings and the forums. And obviously the players, the top players who had a lot of good runs and whatnot, never really got along with him well and never really enjoyed him having that authority. So actually what happened was the next, a similar incident to Com's fake Streets Agent 113 is a gentleman by the name of Dan Berube. And Dan Berube was a player claimed to be from British Columbia. And he had some videos of him playing Goldeneye, which makes it a little bit different. But he claimed Damn Agent 53 seconds. And he claimed that he was the second person to ever get it. He tied Brian Bosshart's 53 when that was untied. I know now there's over 100 people with Damn 53. But there was a time when it was untied by Boss in September 2002. And not long after that, Dan Berube claimed he had tied it with no video evidence. Now, the thing with Berube's 53 is that he eventually sent a VHS tape, a proof tape, to one of the proof moderators. And on the proof tape were piles and piles of Damn Agent 54s. So he was trying to sort of demonstrate that he had the skill to get 53. And on those 54s, it always read best time 53. Of course, that's not proof. That's easily, you could easily get a Game Shark, get a 53 with run through doors on, for example. And, now you have, it says best time 53. Now it looks like you actually got it, right? And certainly a lot of claims about records back in the day might have, had that as kind of their origin. But Berube also had some proven times, like he got Depot Agent 26 when it wasn't a very common time. And, a few records like that. So long and short of it is that Berube's claim of a 53, despite having no proof, no evidence, no video, was ranked. And he went down in history as the second player to get day 53, the first player to tie Boss's 53. Over the course of the next literally 10, 12, 13 years, people always kind of fought this decision. And that's what it kind of came down to, is that like literally an administrator of the elite, so would have been someone like Calm or a gentleman Endgamer, was sort of the guy, the administrator, the kind of top guy for a very long time. Probably from at least like 03, 02 to 2012 or later. He was sort of the unquestioned, the top guy who made all these important decisions. And the thing is, Endgamer hardly played the games, hardly knew anything about the games. If you asked him in 2006, what's the world record on Damn, Secret Agent, or Facility 00, he wouldn't have known. He was really mentally checked out from the games in the early 2000s, yet he wanted to stay on and hold that position of power on the rankings and forums for God knows what reason, but he did. And so with the Berube incident, Endgamer decided, okay, you know what? The evidence is there. I believe Berube got 53, and it was ranked on the rankings, tied Bosses Untied. It wouldn't be for another year and a half until the third person, really the second person, Ilari Pekela, tied Bosses 53, with video evidence this time, of course. Anyway, so somewhere down the line, we kind of realized, these historical errors that have been made through the elite history, they can be amended. We can fix what we did wrong in the past. And so at AGDQ 2015, I talked to Derek Clark, who is the owner of the website, theelite.net, and founded it, when he was in his teens, way back in the day. And I basically told him, look, let's just remove this time. There's been a lot of talk about it on the forums. It always comes up. Let's just, for the sake of correcting history, talking about what really happened, having the record books show the truth, let's just remove Berube's 53. He's not even around. He doesn't even care anymore. And so we did. And actually, he kind of agreed to do it at AGDQ 2015 when I was talking to him. But then when we all got back home to our homes and posted on the forums, it actually became kind of a bigger fuss again, kind of kicked up the dust again, and the debates raged on, as they had at various points over the past 12 or 13 years about that specific time. So it was kind of interesting to see one last-ditch effort from the pro-Berube 53 side, why we should keep the time. Of course, they really didn't have any good points, any valid reason why they should keep it. And it was removed. And that was sort of the last straw that made Calm step down from all his administrative powers and whatnot. I guess he was on the side of Berube, keeping Berube's 53 up. And there'd be times when a rogue moderator would remove the time and then another moderator would put it back up on the rankings. Just the kind of petty stuff that goes on in gaming communities online. So, but I guess Calm finally realized, his days of having the power were up. It was only symbolic for him now. And he moved on from the elite 2015 or so, which a lot of players rejoiced for. But those certainly were two interesting times, Berube's Damn 53 and Calm's Streets 113. Both didn't have videos, no proof, and one was dealt with very differently than another. If it weren't for the players kicking up a fuss, maybe Berube's 53 would still be ranked, and he would still be credited as being the first person to tie Boss's 53. So that's certainly an interesting situation, and how we've kind of moved on from there. Now, the next story I want to talk about is Jimbo, a gentleman, Jim Barrett, a good guy. And he's also had his sort of run-in or share with some faked runs or faked claims and whatnot. Now, in the year 2001 or 2, when he was 13 years old, he claimed on GameFAQs.com that he'd achieved Caverns Agent 102. Now, at the time, 103 was the world record by Wouter and maybe one other guy, Ben Southward. So 50 or 102 would have been untied, and Jimbo made this claim. Obviously, he didn't get it. The thing with that claim is, though, he claimed it on another site, so not technically the elite.net. So it's like, was it really a founded substantial claim? Probably not, and plus he was 13 years old, so it was certainly forgivable. I think he was actually banned from the rankings for like a year or something back then. But after that had lapsed, he joined, and he actually became one of the first guys to have videos for all or almost all of his times. So he certainly learned from that. Well, not quite, because a couple years later in 2004, he posted a very interesting run on Silo Double O Agent. Now, at that time, the Silo Double O Agent run, the record was 132 by Brian Bosshart. And Silo Double O Agent is a very tough level because there's a lot of guards. You have 8 bars of health, so you can get hit 7 times, 8 and you die. And it's a tough level to live. It's a tough level to play, tough level to do anything, get any good runs going. So Jimbo posted a 134, which was a second place time. And now in the video, because he had videos for all of his runs, he didn't get hit a single time. And so obviously this was like suspicious to a large swath of the elite, but no one really did anything, because I guess the idea of like having faked a video was kind of so foreign and not really like done that much yet. So the Silo Double O Agent 134 was on the rankings for a long time. And if you know Silo Double O Agent, there's like, I'll have the run playing here on screen as well. And there's a point in the level where there's like some silver crate guards, that's what we call them, crate guards. They're very accurate. They have 100% accuracy. And if they take dead aim at you and shoot, they're going to hit you. Like, that's a 100% thing. Not just on Silo, on Aztec and Jungle and a couple other levels. And so you can get past them without getting hit if they're like crouching and not shooting at you, which happens. So the idea of a Silo Double Agent speedrun where you don't get hit at all is possible, but not on Jimbo's run, because there was that point where they take dead aim at him and they don't hit him. And so people knew something was kind of sketchy there. But again, the waters hadn't really been tested as far as faking videos went. 2 or 3 years passed and Jimbo would eventually relent and say, yeah, you know what, my Silo Double Agent 134 is fake. I used a Game Shark. What you can essentially do on Game Shark is you can make the settings like on 007 mode, but play it on Double O Agent. Or there's a cheat that says like enemy accuracy 0%. And you put that Game Shark code on and then play Double O Agent, and now you're not going to get hit, but your best time will save and it makes it look like it's a legit run. And the thing with enemy accuracy 0 is that sometimes they still can hit you. It's very, very rare, but they can hit you. And Jimbo said he was hoping to get a run, a 134, where they did hit him. So he got hit once or twice and made it look legit, and he could claim that record as real. But that didn't happen. He had a hitless run, which raised some eyebrows. Now, his motive for cheating this run was he had a really fast run. Boss had the record 132. Jimbo had like a 132 or 133 pace run, and he got like completely like screwed at the end. I mean, that happens to everybody. But he really felt like he got completely screwed out of this run. That would have been like a second place PB. And he felt like the game owed it to him to give him that run. So he, kind of believed in his mind that he deserved this Silo 134, and that's why he had no problem faking the run using the Game Shark to make it seem like he actually got it. And that's an interesting kind of concept because we'll see it come up again in the next couple stories. Is like, it happens. That is a motivation why people fake speedruns, is because like they spend 1,000 hours or 100 hours doing something. They know they could get this time, but luck or what have you prevents them from actually getting it. And they just feel like, you know what? Like, why am I wasting my life going for this time? I should have it already. I just got screwed by luck. I'm just going to fake it. Everyone knows, I know. That's what goes on in your mind, that I could get this time. So let's just claim it and be done with it. And certainly we'll see another gentleman who probably felt that way. Now, the thing with Jimbo is, obviously, there's sort of two incidents of him claiming times he didn't actually get. He would go on to beat his silo double agent PB, and he would also, he's the guy now in the elite. Jimbo grew up and lived kind of near Endgamer, so they kind of knew each other in person from when they were young. And Jimbo's always sort of been the bridge between like the old school Endgamer, calm, non-playing administrators and the players, the top tier players who grind hard and dedicate a lot to the game. And Jimbo's always been kind of the bridge between the two groups. And once, 2 or 3 years ago, all of the old school guys finally left, Jimbo became the guy really holding all the power, all the authority in the community. So it seems to be kind of a common trend, right? Is that the guys these stories that I'm telling, the guys who had claimed these faked runs, ended up kind of being important figures in the community. And now the next story is of course me. And some of you might know if you've seen the Frigate Secret Agent Speedlore episode, or there was another great video on cheating and speedrunning done by Retro Gamer. And I'm mentioning that one as well. And part of the reason actually I want to make this specific video was to give kind of a more concise or brief sort of video, kind of detailing all that kind of stuff with me and Henning and how they differ. So that's what we're gonna get into here, because I know a 1 hour Speedlore episode is a little bit much to trod through for a casual viewer. Okay, so I've been playing for about 2 years. It was 2005 when I joined, and then 2 years later, about 2007, I felt like I kind of was owed some runs. There were some PBs that I couldn't get. I wasn't very good at some certain levels. So I went and spliced some videos. And Frigate is sort of the staple example of a level you can splice very easily. Because on Frigate, a failed run looks the same as a completed run. The only difference is that on a completed run, the end screen cinema will come up of Bond putting away his weapon, and you'll get a screen that says complete instead of failed. And oftentimes hostages will escape in the fade out, so you won't see objective A completed on screen. And so it's like literally indiscernible. A fake from a real is indiscernible. And that is true this day. Like people say, oh, there's always ways to detect fake runs, and there are. But like we live in an age where Hollywood movies with beautiful special effects exist. So if people can create Avatar, for example, they can probably create a fake speedrun that's almost indetectable. But anyways, earlier in 2007, I'd untied Frigate Secret Agent 102. And I already felt a little bit screwed on that level because I had 104 as a proven untied, while Boss had a 103 claim, but didn't have the video captured for another year. And later in 2007, Ace tied my 102, and I felt really bothered by it. So I went and faked a Frigate Secret Agent 101. And once you open Pandora's box, it doesn't stop there. I also went and just made a fake Frigate Agent 23 and a Double Agent 107. And I made a Caverns Double Agent PB of 141 or something, and a Train 00 PB. And those weren't even the records. Those were just 85-point PBs. And people would think and you still would see it as years would go on, why would anyone fake a non-world record? And well, there's an obvious reason, is because it's less likely to be found. But I didn't really put too much care in these videos. I literally played Caverns 007 mode with reduced enemy accuracy to 20%. Got hit a few times. It looked like a legit run. And then I just spliced on the end screen of whatever time was completed. So it would be an easier version of Caverns Double Agent. And Train Double Agent I did similarly. And I remember specifically on the Train Double Agent video, I also turned on double RCP 90. So the end screen showed 250 shots fired. And that would never happen on Train Double Agent. You barely get any shots fired on that level. These videos I made were kind of just sort of my adolescent rage coming out, as opposed to something I seriously was trying to pass off for years to come. I knew they would be found out very quickly, which they were. And not only was it sort of me feeling like I was owed these times, it was also the feeling of like, this whole speedrunning thing is like taking over my life. You know, I didn't know, I was a young man. I didn't know where I was headed necessarily. And I felt like it was like really ruining me, let's just socially and academically and whatnot. And, you know, speedrunning really got to me for sure. And so I just figured, you know what, I'm going to post these fake times. I'm going to get banned from the community and I can move on with my life. Interestingly, that didn't happen. Like it didn't happen in the past other cases, the past 3 or 4 cases I mentioned. No one ever got banned for this. And, you know, so my fakes were found in like 1 to 3 days, and I admitted it and kind of, you know, caused a huge firestorm on the forums. I said like, yeah, this site's pathetic. You can't even detect fakes. You know, if I put more effort, you would never have found these. If I didn't come forward, I could have just denied it. It would still be on the ranks. There are probably many fake times in the ranks. So I was also kind of, in my mind, I was trying to like prove a point that, you know, why are we all doing this when it could be so easily not real? Like, we could be spending so much of our real time playing these games when someone could be just faking it, you know? And that's something that like Boss would echo as well later on. You just never know. Like, and the thing is, in order to make a fake video like Jimbo did and like I did, you have to actually be good at the game in order to make a convincing one. Because if you're a bad player and you just post this really good time, no one's going to believe it. But if you're a good player and you post something that like is at your skill level or a world record skill level, it's certainly more buyable. And it's much easier to make the fake because you can just go and like produce your own bits and pieces of the runs, splice them together, and go on from there. So anyways, I think what happened with me is I was like, my times page was frozen for like 3 months or maybe more. So I couldn't post anything new to the rankings. Any video or any time I did post from then on had to be like, you know, would obviously be carefully looked at by everyone, but the proof moderators, of course, as well. And, you know, so it kind of had a little bit of a restriction. And that's sort of, you know, when I first made the fake runs, what I did is I just kind of like photoshopped an end screen displaying the time I wanted to say. And it was a static image. So that's actually sort of how, or what birthed, if you ever follow my current speedruns, some people pick up that when I get a PB, a personal best or a record, I make a little cross on the end screen. And that was sort of developed there as a way of showing that the end screen wasn't a static image. That's what I came up with back then in 2008 to show, yeah, that it wasn't a fake run. Of course, as technology advances, you could still fake a run with a moving cursor. And in fact, Henning would later on. But the fact of the matter is, you know, no one who had faked runs got banned. Why was that? And, you know, the guy in charge of the community at the time, Endgamer, again, he like didn't really care much about the community. He would just like, you know, slap people on the wrist. Don't do it again. You know, you're these time, you know, and he wouldn't even do that really. Like, he'd have to be forced by the community to take action. You know, there'd be pages and pages of frustrated players on the forums yelling about this stuff and being like, take some action, Endgamer. And like, it'd be like weeks before he would do anything. So it was really frustrating to deal with. Anyways, I came back in 2008 and posted an untied record, and I was kind of, you know, not necessarily forgiven, but accepted, you know, what the past is in the past, and you kind of move on. Anyways, and again, all this stuff that I've described took place from like 2000 to 2007, okay? So that's in the infancy of the community. You know, from today, 2017, 2007, that's 10 years. Goldeneye wasn't even 10 years old in 2000, you know, was barely 10 years old in 2007. So it's like, that's like the origins of the community. We've come as far from 07 now as like the beginning of the Elite came to 07, right? So it's a long time ago. And like, you know, these are all sort of, I guess, little strifes and problems that a community in its infancy might have to deal with and learn how to deal with. Like, the whole community started with a bunch of 15-year-olds making some cool sites and posting some speedruns and stuff, right? So no one would ever expect what it would eventually turn into. So the next story is where it all changed, okay? It's where it all changed. I left the community from about 2010 to 2012. And part of it was because I was feeling mounting pressure, just from life in general, but also a gentleman by the name of Henning Blom from Sweden was about to pass me on the rankings. And he did. And, I kind of felt a little bit washed up. I felt like I got to move on, do other things in life, and I did. And when I came back to the community in 2012, at the start of the Twitch era, I started watching a bunch of old speedruns that I hadn't seen before. And I watched Henning's frigate videos, and I knew immediately they were fake. Maybe it takes one to know one, right? And the reason I knew they were fake, as I talked about in the lore episode, was because in the cutscene at the end of the level, when you complete the run, Bond puts away the last weapon he had equipped. Or if you're unarmed, when you end the level, he puts away the PP7. And I think Henning was unarmed on some of his runs, and he put away like a D5K or a Phantom instead. So I knew they were fake. And Henning denied this vehemently, which is, again, different than the cases of myself and Jimbo and Calm and Octo, where we all kind of came clean in a day or two. Henning denied this vehemently for a week. His first response was to call up the tool-assisted speedrunners and have them try to figure out if they could replicate what he did on that run. Try to replicate like the cutscene showing a different weapon than it should. So his first reaction is to get other people to waste more time on this. But again, there were no like rules in place. The administrators didn't care about Goldeneye. They didn't care about the rankings. And so nothing was really done. And this went on for literally, no joke, 2 months. It went on with Henning denying his times were fake. Everyone in the community going like, okay, they're clearly fake, you idiot. Some funny memes came of it. Both Clemens and I would then, fake runs as a joke. I faked another frigate, Agent 23, under the alias Zenith Legend, where in the end cutscene I put away a rocket launcher.
Oh my god, they escaped. It's amazing. Can't believe they fucking escaped. Holy shit, 23!
Kind of joking or making fun at Henning for putting away the wrong weapon in the cutscene. And Clemens' one is even more funny, maybe. It's such a terrible splice job. And then he just overreacts at the end, like, oh my god, it's frigate double agent 102. It's, which is still on the record today.
Oh my god! They escaped. Oh my god, it's amazing. I can't believe they escaped. Oh my god, that's insane. Oh my god, what?
And so it's like kind of where do you draw the line between like a fake parody video and like an actual fake to have on the rankings and use competitively, right? And so because it was the Twitch era, because we knew things had changed, it's now 5 years since the last major incident as well. I wanted to be back involved in the community. Like I knew it was time to change. We had to do something. So what we did is we drafted up a new proof policy, and it sort of detailed about different standards of runs. Because some people would say, oh, like, what's the problem with webcammed runs, for example? Aren't they harder to fake? And the thing is, well, like, no, they're actually easier to fake. They take a little bit more work to fake. But if you did what Henning did, for example, and you had it on a webcam in worse quality, it'd be harder to notice the things that make the runs fake. So I wrote up this whole sort of document, this whole, kind of like a legislation, in fact, detailing standards of quality and penalties and so on. And everyone kind of agreed that this was a good idea to do. And the players sort of, firestormed and forced Calm and Endgamer to make something called the Elite Council. And at the time it was like 11 or 13, players or people, probably 6 or 7 from their old school, irrelevant side, didn't care about Goldeneye. And our 6 or 7 of the players come together on sort of like a board to talk about what and vote on what should happen. And we had this whole kind of first set of meetings. And the crazy thing was most people didn't want to ban Henning from the rankings, which is sort of fair because other cheaters and fakers in the past hadn't also been banned. And what happened was Henning's fake times were removed at that time. The ones that we knew were fake. So they were his frigate times, which were frigate agent 23, frigate secret agent 1 minute, frigate double O agent 107, and then he also had a control time, a control secret agent 411, which was fake. And the craziest thing with the control secret agent 411 was it was like the most obvious fake thing ever. Control's a little bit similar to frigate in that you leave the level, you don't see an objective A complete come up on screen, you hope it completes in the fade out. You can tally escapes to her elevator in the fade out. So it's very easy to fake. You just get a 411 fail and hope that the luck factor completes. Or you can fake it, like he did. Now the thing with Henning's fake 411 was that objective C on control is to complete the mainframes. Have the mainframes blow up, there's 6 or 8 on the level, blow them all up, objective C complete. And objective C complete happens like during the level, like you have to go and blow up all these mainframes. On this run, it never happened. Objective C complete never showed up. He missed a mine throw or something. And there were people in the community who watched this run and knew that he had missed the mine throw. He knew objective C didn't complete. Axel Zackerson, one of his longtime friends from Sweden, was like, I always noticed Henning's 411 control secret agent. He failed the mines, but the run said complete. Looks like a legit run. Other than that, and he just believed it because he never thought Henning would fake a time. And especially 411 wasn't the world record. So Axel's logic was like, Henning would never fake a time. If he did, it wouldn't be a non-world record. Like this is, a 4th or 5th place time. Of course he got it, even though the run was clearly fake because he didn't complete the mine objective. And Henning posted it and got away with it for a year. Anyways, so those times were removed. We also suspected some other times were fake. We always suspected his full game runs were fake. He had an insanely good secret agent full game speedrun, which everyone kind of thought like he just spliced his PBs or almost PBs, stitched them all together and made a full game speedrun out of it. And we suspected that was fake. We also suspected his Surface 2 agent and secret agent times were fake. Because again, in the cutscenes at the end of the level, he was holding a weapon that he didn't end the level with. That's consistent across all levels in Goldeneye. The level you end the level with, the item you end the level with, you're holding in the end cutscene. So like he would, warp to unarmed or the PP7 at the end of Surface 2, and he'd be holding the mine in the cutscene. And like that's literally impossible. You can't even successfully warp to the mine. The mine doesn't produce enough leg to do a door warp. But he was holding the mine, and that's where a meme username that Luke made, last frame mine switch, came out of that. And there's all sorts of funny, meme runs, meme videos as well about switching to the mine in the last frame, which again is not, it didn't happen. His Surface 2 runs were fake, but he kept denying this through the months of sort of interrogation and investigation from the Elite Council that had formed at this point. So, upon creation of the proof policy, Henning's times were revealed to be fake in like September 2012, and it was like November 2012 before action was taken. I wrote up the proof policy, the council met and made a decision. But in the proof policy, what we wrote was that it's going to go into place in January 2013. Every good record must have a video. Enough of this nonsense. It's 2013 now. There are now eyes on the community from people who have like seen Alex's run at GDQ, for example. Like it's time to start taking this seriously. It is a little bit excusable to not have your shit together when you're like in your infancy as an online community. But it's been like 15 years now. Now there's like a lot of people interested in the game. It's not just like a niche group of kids hanging out anymore. Like this is serious stuff. Let's treat it seriously. So every single run now must have a video, must have a good quality captured video, starting in 2013. And anyone who's caught faking a video at this point on is permanently banned from the rankings. Now, because no one in the past, all the guys I mentioned had not been banned, Henning, Jimbo, myself, Com, Octo, even more than that, what we did is we instated like a 3-month grace period from like January to March that year. If you had a fake run on the rankings at that point, you could come forward, say it was fake, you'd get like, penal, slapped on the wrist, and, you'd be forgiven. It was kind of like the Great Atonement. Kind of like, if you know Christianity, it was kind of like the death of Jesus allowed it for everyone to be forgiven for their sins, right? This grace period on the elite rankings was a time when anyone could come forward, confess their fake runs, and be forgiven, and be able to be still on the rankings and competing. No one came forward. But it's really important to talk about the grace period, because that's sort of how we went from like this order of chaos to the current era. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who criticize and even say like, why am I still in the community? Why am I not banned? And it is fair. But that grace period forgave the past. And we had to do that to move on to the future. And since then, we've had a remarkably clean community. So why did Henning get banned after that point? Well, he hadn't confessed all his fake runs. By summer 2013, he was still ranked, and someone, I think it was Softman25, he has a very interesting backstory as well, I might tell one day. But Softman was a guy who kind of came to the elite, for a brief period of time, left his mark, and then left in a fiery blaze. But Softman found like the audio splice on Henning's full game secret agent speedrun. That was proof that run's fake. And even though that run, the full game runs weren't ranked in the same fashion as like the main rankings of the 60 stages, enough pressure mounted where Henning then confessed more fakes. He finally confessed like the Surface 2 runs. He confessed the statue runs, and we didn't even suspect the statue runs, but he confessed statue runs. Like statue agent is very difficult to do one trick, the Trev shot, because Trevelyan dies when you shoot him anywhere but the limbs. And what you have to do is shoot Trevelyan, he reacts and starts talking to you right away. It's like a 6-second speech skip. And so it's much easier to pull off on Double Agent. So Henning played Double Agent with ammo off screen so he could protect it. Got a 2:19 run, which was the world record, without getting hit at all. It's easier to do that on Double Agent than it is Agent. And he posted that with an Agent end screen spliced on. So like we didn't even suspect that one, and that one was revealed to be fake. So at that point it's like, how many of this guy's runs were fake if stuff we didn't even imagine was fake is fake? And he was given the 3-month period that everyone in the community who had ever played Goldeneye was given to come forward and confess. And he didn't come forward then. And even at that point, there were people who were like, no, we shouldn't ban Henning from the rankings. Even after all that 16 years we had been through of chaos and craziness and fake runs and lies and deceit, we finally wanted to get to a point where we'd leave it all behind. We're all men now. And there's people who still wanted to keep Henning on the rankings. And their rationale, Axel Z, again, he's a really good dude actually, but he was like Henning's greatest ally in all this. He really wanted Henning to remain on the rankings. And his reasoning was, well, I saw Henning get some times in person. They hung out in Sweden a few times. I saw Henning get Cradle Agent 34. Henning got Caverns Double Agent 133 live at a meet in Sweden. These are the things Axel would claim. Now, the hilarious thing with Caverns Double Agent 133 is that everyone else at the meet, it was like Axel, Ilu, I think that was the meet where Alex Anderson, Clemens, and Mark Rutsu were all there. They were all in the kitchen, and Henning got Caverns 133 while they were all in the kitchen. So a lot of jokes formed like, yeah, he probably like did some David Blaine shit, like swapped out a DVD and like had a spliced run play, and then revealed the 133 at the end. The point is you didn't know. Like Axel kind of said, I want every run to be ranked on the rankings. And we said, like, that's ridiculous, Axel. Like, there are millions of people who play this game. We can't rank everyone's run who has ever competed in Goldeneye. There's sort of procedures now to be on the rankings. Carl put it very well. It's like being on the rankings is a privilege. It's a rankings system. Like, you know, people get banned from sports or suspended from sports all the time because they lose the privilege to be ranked. You know, if you get a 2-year ban from tennis, for example, you don't have a world ranking when you come back, you know? It's hard for you to climb back up. Henning lost the privilege. He had this time to come clean and he didn't. And despite people still fighting for Henning to be ranked, and a lot of the old boy leaders on his side as well, Henning was finally banned, the trigger was pulled, eliminated, all of his history, whether he got some times or not. Like, he was a good player. He probably got some times legitimately. Some really good records legitimately. But we can't be certain, we can't know. So it was all eliminated from the rankings. One other gentleman, David Monteith, he had a run found that was fake later that year. It was a Depot Agent 25, which was the record at the time. And it was really weird. He just did an emulator 25 and he posted that to the rankings. And he posted it before the grace period in 2012. And he didn't come forward that was a fake run during the grace period. And well, now we've gone into a everything must be proven, zero tolerance proof policy. And we found his fake run. And there was no choice but to ban David Monteith from the rankings. And in the council, you know, it was not quite unanimous. There was, I guess, 13 people in the council. Probably 2 or 3 voted to keep him on the rankings because it seems so minor in comparison to Henning and other people in the past. But we're now in an era where faking is unacceptable. And that's where we evolved to. So Monteith had to get banned. Now, funny thing with Monteith and Henning was that Monteith untied Depot Secret Agent 40. And I believe he got that time, actually. I do. I think, but again, you never know. But then again, you never know about anyone. You know, again, any time on the rankings today still could be fake. It could be a completely indecipherable fake run. It comes to a point where you legitimately never know what's real or not. But I believe Monteith actually got Depot Secret Agent 40 untied. Henning was the second person to tie that. And then Ace was the third. And then after Henning and Monteith both got banned, now Ace, who was the third person to get Depot Secret Agent 40, now had that as an untied world record. And that was kind of funny. That's kind of a crazy anomaly in Goldeneye history. But since Monteith was banned, not a single person who had been established in the community, got some good times, got some good records, has been banned since. So ever since we went through this period in late 2012, early 2013, where we really had a huge revolution, forgave everyone in the past for their sins, and moved forward with a zero tolerance policy, only those 2 guys have been banned, and no one else. We've had a clean community since 2013, 2014. You know, sometimes someone might join the rankings, a completely unknown person. They'll use someone else's like runway Agent 23 runs. They'll find some obscure video and claim those are their own, and they get caught pretty quickly. But that's a lot different because there's sort of nothing at stake, right? If you're an established player now and you make a fake run, you're putting your entire career at stake, right? And that's a lot of time wasted. That's thousands of hours of hard work and passion put in that go to waste. And so that's the brief history of faking and cheated speedruns in the elite. You know, some people might say, "Oh, Goose, why are you talking about this kind of negative story?" A lot of people only want to hear positivity coming out of speedrunning or any kind of gaming community. That's why people are so against cringe compilations, for example, when it comes to GDQ events. But it's foolish to ignore everything in the past. We've all made our mistakes. We've all atoned for them. We've all apologized and tried to move forward as best we can. And it's just ignorant to just put those aside and claim none of it ever happened. And the reason specifically I want to make this video talking about these fake runs in the elite is because there's a lot of chatter now about these fake speedruns and so on. A lot of talk about this Todd Rogers Dragster 551 is really a huge story. Could be the biggest speedrun story of the year or in quite some time. So I do want to do a video about that, and I just felt like it was important to sort of establish my foundation, where I'm coming from on the whole cheated fake speedrun thing. You know, it's never been something I've been shy to talk about or hid. You know, we all do things in the past that we regret, and all we can do is try to move on and deal with it as best we can. And like I say, everyone who had fake stuff in the past did so appropriately. But Henning didn't, and Monteith didn't. And so they were executed for their sins. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. I hope to talk about, again, some more fake speedrun stuff soon. And I hope to have another fireside video soon. It's always a good chat to sit here and just chat to you guys and tell a story. I hope this one is just as cozy and helps you go to sleep, just as my previous ones. And hopefully there are a ton more of these to come. So thanks for watching. Stay true, and I'll see you next time.